Good evening, everybody, and happy 2024 to everybody. I'm so thrilled to see so many happy faces, and I'm so thrilled to have Yuval Ron here today. I want to tell you that I first met him in November of 2023 when I was attending an acupuncture symposium. And by far, I had 4 days of lectures all day, every day. And the best, most informative, brilliant presentation was by Ron. And it's by Yuval Ron. And so I was so delighted by what I learned from him that I really wanted to share it with people who I know would appreciate what he has to say. And so you've read all his bios. I've sent it to you many times. And so I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to give it over to Yuval. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for inviting me to be with you this evening. We met thanks to Dr. Richard Gold, who invited me to give the lecture with him at Pacific Symposium. And I would like to share with you a PowerPoint presentation that Dr. Gold prepared for one of our talks. And I think it's a great PowerPoint to explain about brain entrainment, which is the subject of today. I'm a composer, I'm not a doctor. Okay, so we are talking about how sound affects the brain, how sound can be medicine, and how brain studies have shown that there's actually impact of sound on the brain. And not just that, that we could intentionally use sound to manipulate the brain waves to go to a different mindset or a different consciousness. We could make the brain go to sleep state. We can make the brain go to creative mode. We can make the brain go to thinking mode, analysis and language comprehension skills. So with sound, we can do all those things and help a lot of people to sleep, to improve memory, to improve focus and concentration, meditation, creativity. So it's an amazing field that it has been there in ancient times in a natural, indigenous, shamanic, tribal form where music was used to manipulate the brain in ancient times, which is a whole other lecture. But in recent times, since the 50s, there have been studies and research about how brain waves can be affected by sound. So it's been around in recent era over the last 100 years. And I'm going to share with you some of the basic information about that, and also the latest cutting edge sound therapy for brain health, which is called 4D Hertz. And this is really the latest cutting edge research and field that I'm very fortunate to be active in together with Dr. Richard Gold. So let me share a screen, and I invite you to ask me questions at the end whenever you'd like. Let me go back to the beginning. Okay, sound in the brain. So the effects of sound in the brains are electrical. They are biological, electrical. They affect the neural pathway. When sound goes through our ear or through our body, through our bones and flesh and skin, the sound reaches, those vibrations of sound reach the brain and convert to electrical currents. Sound also can lead to the brain to have physiological changes like releasing chemicals and hormones like endorphins and serotonin and dopamine, which affect our mood and our health. You could say that music is the best organic drug you could find. That's what I teach my students, especially students in high schools who have issues with substance abuse. I show them how music can be the best organic drug with no side effects. Okay, so the most fascinating thing about the research that some of my colleagues, neuroscientists, have shown me is that when you make music, you change your brain. When you meditate, you change the structure of your brain. When you make music, you change the structure of your brain. And the most amazing thing is that you would think that when you meditate and when you do music, there are changes in the brain during the activity, which is true. There is changes during the activity. But the amazing thing is that those changes last. You are actually changing the structure of your brain for the rest of your life. And those changes are actually to a healthier brain. So the brain of meditators and the brain of musicians is a healthier brain. And this is based on research. I've worked with neuroscientists from Penn State Spirituality and the Mind Center, and they focus on spiritual activities and the brain. And they put together a book called How God Changes Your Brain. It's a bestseller written by Mark Robert Waldman and Dr. Andrew Goodman. And those are the two neuroscientists that I work with, and among other neuroscientists. And they cite 400 studies in that book showing positive changes in the brain when you do spiritual practice. It includes chanting, praying, meditating, using music, sacred music, etc. Okay, let's go back to the presentation and go to the next slide. So sound can affect not just the brain, but also heart rate. We can slow down the brain waves, we can slow down the brain, and we can reduce anxiety and pain with sound. This is all based on studies. Now, one of the tools that we have is called brainwave entrainment, which is using sound to modulate the brainwaves to a place, a frequency, a vibration in the brain that is wished for. There are 5 categories of brainwaves. There's gamma states, which is the fastest vibration we know of. It's from 30 to 100 hertz. It's very, very fast waves. This is associated with when we use our intuition, memory, connectivity between parts of the brain. Some spiritual states are associated with this gamma state. Beta state is where we are right now. When I talk, when I analyze, when I communicate using language, and when you listen to me, our brain is vibrating in beta state, which is about 13 to 30 vibrations a second. That's what means 13 to 30 hertz. That means 13 to 30 vibrations a second, or pulsation a second. Now, if I were to lead you on a mindfulness exercise right now, and if I were to tell you, close your eyes, relax your shoulders, relax your body, relax your face, and take a deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth, and do that 10 times. 10 deep, slow breaths. At the end of that 10 breaths, your brain will slow down from where we are right now, which is bzzz, which is the thinking mode called beta. Your brain would slow down to a mode called alpha, which is a beautiful place to be. You feel calm but awake. You are able to think, but you are relaxed. You are calm and alert. That's alpha. Alpha state is 9 to 13 vibrations a second. Lucid, reflective, have slightly diffused awareness. The hemispheres of the brain are more balanced. Now, if you slow down the brain further to 4 to 8 pulsations a second, that's called theta state. And that would sound like if you were listening to the brain in theta mode, it would sound like this. It's 4 to 8 pulsations a second. It would sound like this is very, very, very relaxed mode for the brain. This is very slow for the brain. Because beta, when we are thinking, the way we are right now thinking, our brain pulsates so fast. If you listen to it, you cannot even hear the pulsation. It's so fast. It's 30 or 20 pulsations a second. It sounds just like bzzz. You just hear a buzz tone because it's so fast. But if you slow down your brain to theta, where you can meditate, you go to meditative, creative, deep creativity, 4 to 8 pulsations a second, it would sound like, and that's meditation state. This is where you start losing the words, you start going to images, visual mind, meditative mind. It's a great place to create from, to write a poem or to write music or to compose something. Deep, deep creativity, meditation. If you go to even slower, you go to deep sleep. Sleep with no dreams. That's the delta state, and that's the slowest your brain can vibrate. It's 2 to 4 pulsations a second, so it can sound like do. That's how your brain vibrates when you deep asleep with no dreams, and that's the slowest your brain can operate. If you slow down your brain further, you're dead. So that's the range of our brain's vibration. Now, the interesting thing about brain entrainment and the natural phenomena of humanity is, and animals, so living beings, animals and humans, when you feed a pulse to their brain through the ear, through the eyes, through light flickering, or through the body, if you feed a certain pulse, our body wants to synchronize to that pulse. If you feed a fast pulse to the brain and the body, the heart and the mind, the brain start to synchronize to that fast pulse. If you feed slow pulse, and that's part of the magic of music. Slow music relaxes us. Why? Because slow music pulsates in slow tempo. Fast music is great for chase scenes in a movie. Fast. You know, it's very exciting. It's very, it creates a lot of anxiety. It gets our heart is pushing a lot of blood. We get anxiety of suspense and danger as we're watching the movies. We're not really in danger, but we are watching this chasing in the jungle, and we feel as if we are in danger. Why? Not because of what you are seeing. If you turn off the volume, if you turn off the volume of the soundtrack of that movie, and you watch and you see that person running in the jungle, a person running in the jungle, you're not feeling that you are being chased. You're not feeling in danger. You turn on the soundtrack and you hear the sound effects and the music. Oh, your heart starts beating fast. You feel the danger. You feel the suspense. You feel the anxiety. And that's exactly what the film director wanted me, the composer, to cause you to feel. And how do I do it? I do it with music. And your brain and your heart is following what I'm doing with the music, because we are built to synchronize with external pulsation. They've done experiments with elephants in Thailand. They found that elephants do the same thing. If you play slow music to elephants, they walk slow to the beat of the music. If you speed up the music, the elephants start moving faster to the beat of the music. So you can imagine if you bring elephants to a jazz club in New York City and the band plays a really slow jazz ballad, the elephants would move their body, they're going to sway slowly. And if you play, then the band goes to a fast bebop tune, and the elephants are going to start moving to the beat. It would be a wonderful experiment to do. If you can get an elephant or a tribe of an elephant to a small jazz club in Manhattan. So this is the foundation. This is the natural phenomena that we're working with. Our brain wants to synchronize to external pulse. There's probably evolutionary reasons for that. There are evolutionary. We are built a certain way in order to survive. There's a survival issue underlying these phenomena. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Here you see the drawing of those waves, the brain waves. You see beta when you're wide awake. You see how many waves. It's very busy. Let's go back. And then alpha, when you take 10 deep breaths, you see the waves are spaced more and they are not as busy. Theta, when you in light sleep or extreme relaxation or in meditation, you see it's very relaxed and less waves, less activity. And delta, when you're in deep sleep, dreamless sleep, it's very slow waves. One of the techniques for brain entrainment is called binaural beats. Binaural beats are a technique that we use in brain entrainment, and you must have headphones in order to get the impact of binaural beats. This is something that was discovered in the 50s and was researched through the 70s. And what scientists found is that if you feed a pulse in the right ear, it goes to the left brain. And if you feed a different pulsation in the left ear, it goes to the right hemisphere. And then the left hemisphere is vibrating with the pulse from the right ear. Let's say the pulse is 50 hertz, meaning 50 pulsation a second. And let's say we feed 60 hertz, 60 pulsation a second through the left ear. So the brain hemisphere, the left brain hemisphere vibrated 50 pulsation a second, and the right hemisphere is vibrating at 60, and the brain calculates the difference. The difference between 50 pulsation and 60 pulsation is exactly 10. And in the middle of the brain, suddenly there's a third wave of pulsation appearing only in the brain of the listener, and that brain in the middle is at 10 pulsation a second, 10 hertz a second. Why 10? Because that's the difference between the 50 and the 60 pulsation a second that you fed to the brain through the headphones. Only if you do it through the headphones, it happens in the brain. If you put it on the stereo speakers, it doesn't happen in the brain. If you feed it through the headphones right to the brain, it happens. And that discovery led to the field of binaural beats. And if we can feed those tones and cause the brain to vibrate at 10 or 20 or 4 or 6 pulsations a second, we can make the whole brain start to synchronize with that pulsation, driving the brain to the brainwave consciousness zone that we want. If we want to drive the brain to deep sleep, we could feed it 6 or 4 or 5 pulsations a second through those binaural beats. If we want to increase concentration and focus, we can drive the brain to beta or to alpha to be calm and focus, or to be very high level of cognition and memory, language comprehension skills. We can drive the brain to beta, etc., etc. So through these tools, we can increase focus, concentration, motivation. We can reduce stress, anxiety, etc. That leads us to recent research of MIT, and this is the most amazing thing. This is the latest discovery. Years ago, researchers found that older people who start losing their memory, for some reason, they didn't have any more gamma waves, those very ultra fast waves that associated with intuition. Older people who start losing the memory, their brain just would not go anymore to vibrate that fast. And that gave a clue to the researchers. They thought, if these people their brain doesn't vibrate fast in gamma wave anymore, maybe if we feed gamma waves to their brains, maybe we can recover the memory ability. The problem was that gamma waves is between 30 and 100 hertz. That's 70 different pulsations a second, 70 different pulsations a second, and who knows which one would do the trick. MIT team several years ago took on that challenge, and they worked with mice, and they tested it on mice, and they found that from all the 70 frequency between 30 hertz to 100 hertz, 40 hertz is the magic bullet. 40 hertz, for some reason, 40 hertz had unique ability to increase blood flow in the brain of these mice, improve their memory by clearing the plaque that sits on the memory pathways. And people who have cognitive issues, cognitive loss, early dementia, early Alzheimer, researchers found that in the brain of these people, there's plaque sitting on the memory pathways. And those plaques, it's being, every healthy brain clears the plaques all the time. There's a cleaning crew that works all the time, cleaning the brain, and that's why we are healthy. For some reason, some people in older age, that cleaning crew just go on strike. The cleaning crew just had no energy. They're not cleaning anymore. That's it. And plaque starts sitting on the memory pathways, and when plaque sits on the memory pathway, there's no information, doesn't flow on that memory pathway, and you just can't remember a certain name. You can't remember a certain thing because that pathway is clogged. 40 hertz vibration does not clear that pathway. For some reason, the vibration of 40 hertz restart the cleaning crew. That mechanism that cleaned the brain pathways start working again. We don't know why, But when the brain gets 40 hertz, that cleaning crew wakes up and starts cleaning it. And there's impact on memory, on cognition, positive impact. Perhaps it has to do with simply the fact that they found that 40 hertz vibration fed to the brain increased blood flow in the brain. Maybe this cleaning crew is just starting to work because there increased blood flow in the brain. They don't know the answer. Why? It's still yet to be researched. They found that using 40 hertz vibration increase the healing time, recovery time for patients with brain trauma. People that had accidents, brain injuries, they heal faster when they are receiving 40 hertz. Why? Probably because more increased blood flow in the brain, increased blood flow anywhere in the body help heal. When you have an area in the body that have very slow and not efficient blood flow, like in the ankle, for example, an injury in the ankle takes a long time to heal, especially in old age, because the blood flow in the ankle is not very, very good in old age. If you have an injury in your tongue, there's a lot of blood vessels in the tongue. A cut in the tongue heals very quickly because there's a lot of blood flow. There's lots of blood vessels in the brain, in the tongue. So if you increase the blood flow in the brain that had an injury, you would help that brain to heal faster. That's why they use now 40 hertz to help people recover from brain trauma. It's really fascinating, and it's all sound. It's no drugs, no side effects, no pharmaceutical, simply sound. So there's all those studies here. They are now starting to use 40 hertz to help people with major depression, people with Parkinson, people with other syndromes, chronic pain, joint pain, bone cell density. It starts to grow. This 40 hertz start to grow beyond just brain health. Now researchers are starting to see, what 40 hertz vibration will do for heart disease. What can 40 hertz help with Parkinson? They find, yes, there are some doctors that I know of that are treating very successfully Parkinson patients with 40 hertz, and they almost eliminate their tremor. It's amazing. So it's now going beyond brain health, and it's all a very cutting-edge experimental technique. All the doctors that you're going to go to will not know anything about it because it's not out there yet. It's only in handful of universities and handful of doctors that are experimenting with it, are using it with their patients. Now, let me get to the really the cherry on the cake and where I came in is all the doctors and all the universities and all the researchers that are using 40 hertz, they use just the tone 40 hertz, which sounds like this. It's a low buzzing tone. That's 40 hertz. Or they use so they make a patient sit an hour a day listening to this sound for an hour a day, every day. Poor patients. Or they feed that 40 vibrations a second through the optical nerve to the brain, through the eyes. They put a bright light that flicker 40 times a second, 40 times on, off, 40 times on, off a second. It's so fast, our brain cannot even see the on, off. All we see is bright light, like neon light, right into our eyes, and our brain is getting 40 hertz pulsation. So you have to sit there for an hour looking at this horrible light and listening to this horrible thing. And that's what they do. That's what they gave to the mice. That's what they give to humans. And Dr. Richard Gold have heard about this from Dr. Sanjay Manchada, who's a doctor who works with brain trauma. And Dr. Richard Gold told me, you know, that is amazing research, amazing breakthrough of the 40 hertz. Do you think you could create music that incorporates the 40 hertz sound and make beautiful music that can relax and soothe people and provide them with that 40 hertz healing vibration? And then we could provide patients with beautiful healing experience that would be good for their health and will not be oppressive. And we will get more people to do it because it will be more pleasant. So we would get more healing in the world. So I took on this creative challenge to create music that incorporates 40 hertz vibration in it. And I managed to create 3 albums so far that are called The Healing Power of 40 Hertz, Volume 1, which is kind of new agey music. We created The Healing Power of 40 Hertz, Volume 2, which is world music using instruments and musical scales and modes from India and Persian instruments and Indian instruments. So it's very world music, Asian style. And then we created a 3rd album called Healing Power of 40 Hertz Volume 3, which is all jazz ballads, calming jazz ballads for piano and classical guitar, nylon string guitar. Very beautiful, very calming. You can try this music on the record company is called metamindfulnessmusic.com, meta with double T, meta with double T. I can put it in the chat. So it's METTA mindfulnessmusic.com. Go to the page called Brain Health. Click on the tab Brain Health. Click on the tab on top of the home page called, and then you're gonna find these albums. You may listen to it, try it, see what it does to you. Hopefully it will be a great preventive and maintenance for your brain health and beyond just brain health. And enjoy it. So that's the story in a nutshell. This is the short version. So I invite you, I hope you enjoyed this brief summary, and I invite you to ask any question you may have.
Do you have to listen to it with your headphones?
Yes, if you want the full impact. So there are 3 layers of 40 hertz vibrations. One of them is the binaural beats, and 2 layers of 40 hertz vibration is in the music. So if you listen to it without headphones, you're getting 2 layers of 40 hertz vibration. If you listen to it with the headphones, you get the full impact, 3 layers, and this amazing layer, the 3rd layer that you get through the headphones. The 40 hertz happened only in your brain. It doesn't exist in the music. It doesn't exist in reality. There are 2 other tones. I think everybody needs to be on mute to avoid that feedback. So there are 2 tones in the headphones that are embedded in the music that cause your brain to create that 40 hertz, and that's a binaural beat effect. So for full impact, yes, listen to it in headphones. Any headphones, any earbuds would be best. If you don't have headphones or you don't feel like listening to headphones, that's okay too. But you're getting 2/3 of the medicine.
Yuval.
Yes. Who would like to go next?
How does hearing loss affect your brain?
the brain wave?
The brain has nothing to do with ear loss. When you sleep, your brain wave slows down. It doesn't matter if you hear with your ears or not. When you meditate, your brain slows down. When you think intellectually, your brain speeds up. It doesn't matter if you hear or not. These brain waves are internal brain. It's like an engine. Think about our brain is like an engine. It's like a motor, and the motor, when it goes to different modes, like faster mode or slower mode, it vibrates according to the mode that it's in. It's an internal vibration. They are not sound waves. They are brain waves.
Thank you.
Sure. Let's go to Lee. Lee, yes, please unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
If you go to bed at night and play your music and sleep listening to it for hours on end, so you're sleeping and you're getting the full impact of your music, would that have a greater impact on your brain?
Yes, but let me explain. 40 hertz music is not for sleep. 40 hertz is gamma wave, which is fast wave, which has to do with spirituality, intuition, and things that we don't yet know. We don't know a lot about what the brain is doing when it's vibrating so fast. There's a certain health impact, but it's not sleep. It's not the mode. It's not the brain wave of sleep. So 40 hertz is music to listen to a few hours before sleep. And it's been shown in studies in Stanford University that people that listen to 40 hertz music 3 hours before going to sleep had better sleep. And that could be because of the increase of blood flow to the brain 3 hours before made their brain more able to slow down for sleep later. For sleep, we have other kinds of music. We have brain entrainment music that slows down your brain for sleep. If you go to that website, metamindfulnessmusic.com, there's a tab called Music for Sleep. And you go there and you choose music for sleep, which is good to sleep with. And you don't have to use headphones. You can put it in the background and loop it all night very softly in the background. You can use special headphones for sleep called sleep headphones, which are very flat and easy to sleep with. You can find it online anywhere. There are many kinds of sleep headphones. But you don't have to use headphones. But sleep music is different than 40 hertz. But remember that study in Stanford showed that if you listen to 40 hertz and 3 hours before going to sleep, it will impact your sleep in a positive way. But for sleep issues, use sleep music. Any other question?
One question.
Yes,
Can
Pamela.
I share this one question? If one listens to the music, say for a year, and the cleaning crew starts working again, and then you stop because people always stop habits, would the cleaning crew therefore stop working after a while?
This is a very good question, but it was never tested. This is a very new study, and they never done a study that you described. They never done a study with people who've done it for a year and then stopped, or mice that used the music for a year and then stopped. So this is unknown. But I would assume that just like any exercise, any good maintenance practice, like yoga, like stretching, like running, like swimming, if you stop doing it, you go backwards. If you swim for a year and you develop your lungs and your lungs are in better shape and you're not going to get bronchitis during that year because you are strengthening your lungs, and then you stop swimming, your lungs going to start shrinking and going to lose tone and lose muscle, and you may be vulnerable to respiratory diseases. So, this is about exercise, about practice. It's about vibration. It's like a massage. It's like exercise, vibration to the brain. It's fitness. It's brain health fitness. You have to do it. all the time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. You mentioned that they've been doing these studies with people who have some form of dementia. Is that
Yeah.
being done in this country somewhere?
Most of the studies were done with mice who their memory was impaired by the researchers going into their brain and damaging some pathways in their brain. There's some studies in humans. They were done in this country. Yeah, some were done in Stanford. One study in humans were done in MIT, and it was published a year ago, showing positive results, no side effects. But this is very, very new field. One of the medical centers that are using it with patients that have early dementia and early Alzheimer is in George Washington Medical Center in Washington, D.C. And they have a special program where they do 9 different therapies that includes mercury detox and all kinds of exercises for the brain, etc., etc. And also the music that I created for Dr. Richard Gold is used in George Washington Medical Center in that program. The doctors recommend all the patients to listen to this 40 hertz music, and they say that they see 60 to 75% improvement in patients. But it's a holistic program that the music is part of it. But the studies in mice and the few studies in humans, they were just with the 40 hertz pulsation or light, not with the new 40 hertz music that we just produced. The 40 hertz music is being used now by doctors, but it hasn't been in an official study yet.
Okay, so that's been tested on mice with some form of dementia, perhaps. What about someone who has had a brain trauma and lost part of the brain from the trauma? Is it possible to, because of brain plasticity, to rebuild that?
I know that Dr. Sanjay Manchada, who was the first to lead us in this field, he specializes in working with patients that have brain traumas of all kinds. I sent him 2 patients. One of them had severe brain trauma with 2, car accident and 2 brain surgeries, very severe brain damage. And he recommended the 40 hertz treatment for her. He works with patients every day using this therapy, and he has experience with that, and he says that it helped people recover from brain trauma faster than any other way.
And can you give me his name and phone number, please?
Yeah. If you send me an email, I'll connect you with him. Dr. Sanjay Manchada. Yeah, he's based in both in California and Arizona. He's got 2 clinics.
Oh, in California and Arizona. Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
By the way, people that have advanced dementia and advanced Alzheimer, it's too late. The therapy doesn't work.
Oh, yeah, I would guess so.
So we're talking about early stages or preventative, before getting into it. Preventative, it would be good that if everybody from the age of 50 listen to 40 hertz, just as a preventative,
Yeah. Well, thank you. I will get your email from Pamela.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat.
Won't you put the
I'll put my email. I'll put my email in the chat right now. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
The chat will disappear after the call ends, but I'm going to put it right now. And please feel free to email me with any questions, any follow-up questions, and if you want contact with any of the doctors that I mentioned, I'll be happy to connect you. Is there any questions? I'm not looking at the chat for questions. If you want to ask me a question instead of
I have a question, Yuval.
raise your hand. Yeah, who is this?
Pamela.
Pamela, please.
Yes. So I uploaded a free binaural beats app. And so it's got two things. One says beat frequency, and it goes up to the 40 hertz. But underneath that, it says tone frequency. And that goes up to 400 and starts at 200. What does that mean?
That may be an additional tone that you can choose to listen to in addition to the 40 hertz. A tone is, it can be 200 can be 2, and 400 maybe 2. And I don't know. I'm not familiar with this app, so
Okay.
I can't really. I'm just guessing.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for introducing me to it. Appreciate it a lot.
If I may ask,
Yes.
have a look at the plaque when you talked about the cleaning crew.
Yeah.
Did they find amyloid plaque that they were able to show actually lessened, that it improved the plaque?
Yes. Measurable, provable, scientifically shown that the amyloid plaque was reduced in a significant measure in the brain of mice that were exposed to 40 hertz and in human studies, which are very few. They're just starting to do it in humans.
The reason I'm asking, I'm a retina specialist, and there's also the cleaning crew goes on vacation in the retina with macular degeneration, and you get buildup of deposits called drusen. And I'm just wondering if this is amyloid specific or it's a broad cleaning crew benefit that may help, because that's a very unmet need. So
yes, that's very interesting. Different doctors and different researchers, because of the studies in brain and cognitive function and 40 hertz, other doctors like yourself, heart doctors, Parkinson doctors, people specialized in other fields start to try, because they were intrigued by what's going on in the brain with 40 hertz, and it's very promising. Who knows? Maybe it relates to the retina and maybe not. It would be interesting to do the light therapy, which is directly through the optical nerve, and see. I'm not aware of any study yet for the retina and 40 hertz, but it will be very interesting to see. And I can tell you, in the last 5 years, I've seen amazing increase in studies of 40 hertz with other field of medicine that are not brain related. And that's really, in the last 5 years, is starting to take off.
thank you very much.
Sure.
Quick question about your creative process.
Yes.
How you compose the 40 hertz music, or how do you went about scientifically, forming those specific beats?
This is a very long discussion. I'll try to summarize it. It's also very technical musically, but just to summarize in broad strokes, 40 hertz does not exist on the piano. 40 hertz does not exist in normal standard Western tuning of the orchestra. If you look for 40 hertz on the piano that is tuned to Western tuning, you find that 40 hertz is in between two keys on the piano, but there's no key for 40 hertz. So the closest you can get is the note E1, which is the lowest E on the piano, but it's not E and it's not E flat. It's in between E and E flat, between the white key and the black key. So I realized that in order to create music in 40 hertz, I need to detune all my musicians' instruments. I need to detune any instrument that I'm going to use about a quarter tone. And we calculated mathematically exactly what it would be. It's not exactly quarter tone, but it's almost quarter tone. It's right in the middle. And so the first thing was to realize that, and then thinking about which instruments I'm going to use. You know, I didn't think I'm going to use the piano in the beginning, because go and detune, 300 strings of the piano. But so I started with cello and, few strings that, cello, sitar, spike fiddle, all kinds of instruments, plucked instruments, strings and bowed strings. I chose to compose the music using musical modes from India that have been used in ancient India for relaxation and for healing and for sleep. I composed the music in the key of E that is tuned down to E 40 hertz. So everything is in E, in different modes of E, but everything is based on E because E 40 hertz is the 40 hertz vibration. And I composed the music in a way that utilizes a lot of the note E, 40 hertz E, and the harmonic, which is E2, which is 80 hertz, and E3, which is 160 hertz. And so I get all the overtones of the E. I added bass notes that go throughout the piece, so it's very pedal based. It's modal music. It's music that doesn't modulate much, and everything is crafted in order to maximize the amount of these vibrations that are needed for the healing. And in addition to that, there are different layers of instruments, different layers of vibrations of 40 hertz, and together with the binaural beats, it's what I call the triple strength 40 hertz music, because there are 3 layers of 40 hertz. There's 40 hertz in the binaural beats, which cause 40 hertz in the brain of the listener if you listen to headphones. That's one layer. The second layer is 40 hertz pedal bass that goes throughout the music. And the third layer is the 40 hertz that the instruments that play the melody attack and utilize that note during their melody. So those are the 3 layers in the music layering.
I have a question. I would like to know.
Can I ask you?
Is
Joel?
Yeah, go ahead, Frankie. Frankie,
Joel, is 40 hertz audible, or is it's there but it's inaudible?
It is audible. It's a bass note that sounds something like ooh.
Okay, I wanted to know that because I've got I'm auditorily impaired, so with hearing aids, so I could hear you doing that. But I wondered whether people who are deaf but are wearing hearing aids can hear 40 hertz.
Yeah, they can, and they can get it through their body and through their bones. It definitely can go to the brain through the body. Through their bones, yeah. Joel, did you have a question? Joel, you're on mute. Unmute.
You're on mute, Joel.
No, I didn't have a question. Thanks.
Anybody else had a question?
Joel Jacks. Yes, Joel Jacks. Unmute yourself, Joel.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a Johnson & Johnson product out that removes amyloid plaque from the brain. Do you know about it? Can you tell me about it?
No, I never heard about it.
Well, I'm having treatment for it to remove the amyloid plaque from my brain. It's an infusion which lasts maybe 45 minutes once a week for God knows how many weeks. And so what I'm trying to understand is it how can I figure out which treatment is better? The sound treatment that you talk about, or using this Johnson & Johnson thing? It just came out of trials about 3-4 weeks ago, and I was one of the first non-trial patients. And I can't tell you whether it's helped me or not because I have no symptoms. They've just diagnosed that I have the issue, but the issue would take years to really impact me. But I am having this treatment, and I'm really fascinated by how do I understand what you're saying, and how does that work with the Johnson & Johnson treatment, which actually wasn't theirs, that somebody else came up with it, but they're the ones peddling it.
Yeah. No, it's very exciting. I'm glad to hear about it. I suggest that you try both because, first of all, the music is enjoyable. You do it an hour a day. You enjoy listening to good music. There's no side effects. You can just benefit from it. The Johnson & Johnson, it's a new drug. Who knows what the side effects over a long time? Who knows what they're going to find out in 10 years from now, what it does to other things in the brain? Who knows? It may be a very good drug. It may be safe. It passed the FDA approval, and they allow people like you to take it. So we assume that it's safe, and it showed, it's probably shown to help people. So you can be skeptic, you can be careful, you can be say, I don't know if I should trust the FDA. I don't know if I should trust the pharmaceutical. I don't know if I should trust Johnson & Johnson based on so many other problems that other drugs have had and were pulled out. Or you can say, I trust the company, I trust the science, I trust FDA, and I'll go for it. So that's your own consideration with Johnson & Johnson. But I'm saying with the music, there's no side effects. The 40 hertz has no side effects. It's been shown in studies on humans. You have just something to benefit from it. It's not expensive. It's inexpensive. It costs, I don't know, $20, and you have music for the rest of your life, and you just listen to it an hour a day, and you enjoy the music, and it may work in concert with the Johnson & Johnson drug. It may do more than the Johnson & Johnson drug. Who knows?
I'll have to come and consult.
Just really quickly, based on that last person, there's a 60-minute special that aired recently that was looking just at that. And they were looking, there's a neurosurgeon that is using ultrasound to open up the blood-brain barrier, because one of the issues is that not much of the drug passes through the blood-brain barrier. So he's using ultrasound and obviously experimental still to increase that, to get more drug into the actual brain.
Very interesting discussion. This is a wonderful group to discuss this. I'm grateful to Pamela for putting us together, and of course, thank you for Dr. Richard Gold, who invited me to work on this project with him.
Thank you.
And I hope you guys can send me an email anytime. My email is in the chat. I'll be happy to connect you with the doctors that I work with and I know. And if you want to try it, try the music and see how you like it. By the way, how do you choose music? There are several studies that have shown that patients who chose music that is soothing for them had more healing impact than music that was chosen for patients by the music therapist who went to university for years to learn what is good music for healing. So your taste, your choices are more important than anybody else. So you need to figure out which music is soothing and pleasing for you. And so that's why we are in a process of putting out 40 hertz music in many different musical styles and traditions to allow many people to benefit from it. So we have currently 3 different albums in New Age, world music, and jazz ballads. We are working right now on a choral music, all vocals, a cappella choir singing in 40 hertz for people who like choral vocal music. We have classical piano album in production and world music piano in production, and so we are working on adding more and more 40 hertz music in different musical styles and genres. By the way, the studies have shown that patients who chose their own music in recovery room in hospitals after trauma, after surgery, they recovered with 2/3 less painkillers. So the music took out 2/3 the amount of the painkillers and 26% less time in the hospital for those patients. So they used less painkillers and they got released from the hospital earlier. And those are the patients who chose their own music. Patients who didn't choose their own music, they were given music by the music therapists, had some positive impact, less painkillers, less time in the hospital, but not as much as the patients who chose the music. And the patients who didn't have any music in the recovery room used the most amount of painkillers and stayed in the hospital the longest.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And these are studies that were done in Scandinavia and in America. And one of the studies I looked at was done in Maine. 67% less painkillers drugs. 67% because of the music. So listen to samples of music, samples, and decide which music is the most pleasing music for you, which 40 hertz music is most pleasing for you, and choose that, use that. And each one of you may have a different taste. Some people, they listen to jazz, they get a heart attack, they get a nervous breakdown. They hate jazz. They can't stand jazz. Some people cannot stand Indian music. It's so irritating to them. And some people are so relaxed when they listen to Indian music, you know. So we learn that the healer, the doctor, has to work with the patients to make it really personal and subjective, because that's the way our brain works. If our brain is getting irritated from the sound, there's going to be a negative effect on our health. If our brain relaxes because of the sound, we're going to have a positive impact on our health. So it's so subjective. There are universal issues, you know, like slow music is more relaxing to all human brains and animals. Fast music affects all human hearts and animal hearts in a certain way. There are universal elements. It's called psychoacoustic. It's a field of psychoacoustic, how different elements of sound affect our psychology. So I studied that field when I studied to be a film composer, because being a film composer, you use this knowledge of psychoacoustics, the psychology of sound, to manipulate the feelings and thoughts of the audience in the film theater. But there are subjective elements and there are universal elements, and we have to work with both. We can't ignore one or the other. Okay.
Yes. If we look at your email or your website, is the music you've made in the 40 hertz? Is it in CDs? How is it?
It's on digital downloads.
Oh. I can download it onto my computer.
You download the file to your computer, to your phone, to your laptop, to your computer, and you listen to it with headphones or without headphones.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, My name is Basil Abramovitz, and I'd like to ask, are there any natural instruments that actually have that 40 hertz? And I'd like to ask specifically about the harp. There's the harp, H-A-R-P.
Harp.
There's a fellow here in San Diego, Doron Pesek, who's been working with patients with Alzheimer's and with other medical problems, and using the harp, and he has a biofeedback thing that he puts on their fingers also. And I actually did a session with them, and you can show the heart rate going down. And I was wondering whether the low tones on the harp and with the overtones and things, whether that is somewhere near the 40 hertz.
Any instrument that has the low E1, like the piano, the harp, bass, can produce 40 hertz, the note E1 40 hertz, but you need to detune the strings about a quarter tone lower. You need to detune the instruments a quarter tone lower. So it's not so there's two questions. Number one is, does the instrument can play low bass notes? For example, the flute, no matter what flute you have, you cannot play the 40 hertz note on the flute or on the violin, because they don't have that low bass note that you have at the bottom of the piano in the low octave E1. So you need, number one, an instrument that can play bass notes, low notes. Number two, you need to detune that instrument about a quarter tone down in order to get the right frequency, that it's exactly 40 and not 41.25 as the normal Western tuning is.
Thank you.
Sure. My friend,
so guys,
I have to go. Unfortunately, I have to go, but yes. I would love to receive more questions through email. If you could send me an email, I'll be happy to reply and give you more information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yuval, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Really
thank you very much.
It.
Thank you. Be well, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right. Lehitraot.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed Yuval as much as I did.
Yes.
This will be recorded, and so it's just a lot to take in, right?
Yeah.
And even now that I'm hearing it for the second time, yeah. And so all I can tell you is that after I heard him, I bought these little seed earpods, so I can even sleep with them if I want to. And then I downloaded his music, and it's the best $25 I've spent on his music, and I don't know how much the AirPods were, but I highly recommend it. So anyway, that concludes our guest speaker, and we're going to move on to our AGM. So for those of you who don't want to stay with us, though we'd like you to anyway, we'll go on from here. Thanks, everybody. Well, so moving right along, thank you, everybody, for being here. I could see from your faces how intrigued you were, and I just had a smile on my face from one ear to the other, saying, you know, ever since I met him, I was wanting to share it, and I see that the audience that I had was like just the right people for me to share it with, so thank you. So right now, I'm going to introduce you to Franklin Galis. He's going to give you a very short introduction to Franklin and my most recent passion. And if any of you have been talking to either of us, you know that we don't stop talking about it. It's called CAN, Combat Anti-Semitism Now. And I'm going to give it over to Franklin to tell you all about it.
Thanks, Pam. Good evening, everyone. Sorry that I'm on my phone.
You, Franklin.
I'm on my phone. I just came from a Shiva call, so you're going to have to.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You won't. I just left shul, so I wanted to be part of it. So just forgive me. I'm on my phone here. Thanks for the invitation, Pam. Sorry to transition from uplifting music discussion to a more somber subject of anti-Semitism, but as we know, very important. The Jewish community in the diaspora, there's what a lot of people perceive as an existential threat. There's a war going on in Israel. I don't have to tell any of us about that, but there's also a very different war going on in the United States. So Pam, myself, and a few others brought out the SAJAC documentary with the three principal speakers last year. I'm sure most of you have seen SAJAC. And when we met with Michael Kretzmer, actually a year ago in February last year, we said to Michael, how do we keep this incredible documentary, the message alive about teaching about Holocaust denial, Holocaust distortion, so important. And we said, let's create something that keeps it and prevents it from withering on the vine. And so we came up with a concept of combat anti-Semitism and teach about Holocaust distortion denial last year, pre-October 7th. We initially wanted to get funds to support educational materials. Pam and I went to different agencies. They couldn't help us. And eventually, Charlene Wallach at the Jewish Community Foundation said, why don't you set up a restricted fund through the Jewish Community Foundation? You can get donations tax-free, with tax deductible rather, and you can use the money at your discretion to support other, what we call 501c3 entities. So that happened in September last year. And then fast forward to, tragically, the atrocity of October the 7th, and we all know what happened from there. There was certainly no need to educate the community about anti-Semitism. And so this has become our initiative, and our effort is to how do we combat anti-Semitism. And I'll just share with you a few just comments. What we've learned, and Pam and I talk about this on a daily basis, it's pervasive, it's extensive, it's infiltrated our society, anti-Semitism. It's been there for decades, we all know that, but what happened on October 7th just unleashed this Jew hatred for all the reasons that we're familiar with. But it's what I didn't realize, and I've been a student of Jewish history, is how extensive it is in our school system, the liberal ethnic studies curricula. I'd never heard of that. But this is courses that through K through 12 are taught at school, and how anti-Semitic the content has been. The governor had to force, change. But whether it's the school unions, the boards, the actual curriculum, it's been impacted by the other side. And they've been very successful at it, and they've been working at it for a long time. So the schools is a huge problem. And we're fortunate to have Laura, Wolf, Gruz, Bertie, and Jackie, late Bertie of blessed memories, daughter, and Jackie Wolf. Laura has been amazing, working with different agencies and herself to try and do what she can, and with others' help, to combat the anti-Semitic tone within curricula. There was a report 2 days ago that 30 Jewish families had to pull their children out of Oakland schools because of anti-Semitism and the curriculum and what the teachers were teaching. It's happening throughout the United States. So the schools is a big problem. The campuses is another huge problem. So even if our children go to a Jewish day school, they're going to find this on campuses. And Pam and I have been involved with Hillel. I'm on faculty at UCSD and have been involved with two sort of task forces dealing with it. The ethnic studies, again, is a huge problem. It's indoctrinating students. It's mind-boggling when you speak to students, and we have, and they tell you how unsafe it is to be on campus, how uncomfortable they are in the classroom when they have teachers who are blatantly anti-Semitic and pushing the from the river to the sea and the white oppressor. And so there's a huge problem with what's being taught to a very vulnerable, gullible young people on the campuses. So just to sort of conclude, where are we with this entity called CAN? We're learning a lot. We're collaborating with all the agencies. We've had meetings with several, with Federation, with Stand With Us, with the American Jewish Committee. We've recently built what I'm hopeful will be a very strong and deep relationship with the Israeli American Council, who've been fabulous in allowing us to support some of these grassroots organizations. And I'm sure many of you hopefully have signed up with 5 Minutes Today, the platform that allows us to send out emails and letters to government, to schools, to universities, to corporations, to notify them of blatant, rabid anti-Semitism within the institutions. So Julie Littman and Karen de Podesta are two moms who are doing an incredible job, who built this platform 5 Minutes Today. They're working literally 24/7, voluntary work, and they need help. CAN has raised quite a bit of money, and we hope to raise a lot more in order to support them. And what we just managed to conclude last week was a relationship with the IAC, where they will support these ladies by hiring help so that they can grow the platform, which is almost 3,000 subscribers, and they've only been at this for about 2 months. So their growth has been incredible. The impact, we believe, has been significant. I don't have time to go into some of the outcomes that we believe have resulted from a lot of the letters that we all are writing and submitting, but they need help. And so we're able to channel money from CAN to the IAC, and the IAC will hire help for them. So that's been a big accomplishment. As I mentioned, in the school arena, Laura is working diligently. We are hoping to support her to develop visual materials to educate teachers in the classroom. And ADL and other groups are also doing this. One of the biggest problems is coordination of all the major professional organizations. And we're trying to play a role of bringing a lot of people together with the community to, take on this charge. The campus, I'm very involved with Hillel and this other group, and I think we're just beginning. 405 of us who are faculty members of the UC system wrote a letter to the UC Regents Board just yesterday. I can get it to you. It's very interesting to read what was written, and taking the regents and the administration to task for changing the status quo on campuses throughout California. A huge problem. I think we're just at the beginning. We're working with Hillel. Just on a side note, this isn't CAN specific, but it's sort of a spin-off. We found out that students on campuses, UCSD, SDSU, are threatened on campus. They're not comfortable in libraries. They're not comfortable in their dorms. Where do they go? They go to Hillel. What do they need at Hillel? They need a quiet place to study, and they need food. So, my wife, Jean, did a great job. She reached out independently to friends, raised quite a bit of money, stocked up at Costco, Walmart, you name it, and brought a ton of food over to SDSU. And I think, Pam, you can speak to Tanya Friedman's efforts. You're working on the Glickman, I think it's the Glickman Hillel by UCSD. And we've gotten the most incredible letters of thanks from students who just feel, that we're helping them out, we're looking after them. So it's a huge problem, anti-Semitism in this country. Why am I involved? I feel it's my obligation for our children, our grandchildren, for the future generations. I think we should all be involved. This is a huge problem that we all need to become involved with. And what we want to do is help raise funds, support those, people on the ground who are doing the work, combating it, who are working in the schools, working on the campuses, and help coordinate an effort and just play a role just like we've got our Israeli brethren on the front lines fighting in Gaza and elsewhere. We've got a battle over here, and we've all got to become involved. So that's my message. Thanks for your attention. Sorry to transition to a more sober subject than uplifting music at 40 hertz, but happy to take any questions, comments.
Franklin, is there a website that one can go to?
That's sorry, who am I speaking with? I can't see it because I'm just on my Joel.
Yeah.
Joel, you know, I just wrote to Pam today and I said, we need a website or a web page. And, you know, I'm still very involved in medicine, but I spend so much time on this topic because I feel it's so important. And there's so much to do. And I'd love to get some help with getting a web page, website where we can put some of the material. You can read these letters that we're signing. You can, you know, see we've got a ton of information that I think is very relevant to everybody to be aware of what's going on. I don't know is there anybody who can help us develop a website or a web page?
I mean, I guess there are people. Is it just a volunteering thing, or is it could be a paid?
You know, I thought, Pam, and you can chime in. I thought, you know, we're going to have a meeting next week with IAC again, and if we transfer funds to them because they're a 501c3, they can receive funds from our restricted fund. Maybe they can support. You know, we've got the funds, and I think it's critical, to your point, to have some medium where people can get information and understand more what the problem is and what we're doing. So it's a good point. We don't have it you know, just to be brief, we don't have it, but it's been on our agenda to get something like that established. So good point. Thank you for bringing it up. Pam, any thoughts, questions, any other questions, comments? Well, I want to thank SAJAC and Pam. I mean, I don't have to sing Pam's praises. We all know what Pam has done for SAJAC over 25 years, and she's got incredible energy, and she's always been, you know, when it was with Jacques, she and I, you know, coordinated with several other people, this whole CAN effort. SAJAC supported it, Pam supported it. We've had tremendous support. Joel Jacks, who was on the call, has been an incredible support donor. And I think we're just beginning, but we've got a big battle ahead. We need a lot of funds to support the efforts, and we just hope people will join us and help us coordinate this effort.
Where can we see that movie Jacques? Because I heard a lot about it, but I don't know where to see it.
You know, Pam, let's take this offline. I've still got the link. And, you know, Michael Kretzmer, who's the producer, has asked me to be very cautious in terms of sharing it because he doesn't want it downloaded to social media. I wonder if Michael will allow SAJAC to have a way for people to get it like Joel wants to see it. I mean, it's a must view, Joel. It's a brilliant movie.
I'll write it down and let's talk to him.
Okay. So any questions, comments, please, you can get to Pam, you can get to me. We need your help, but we appreciate that SAJAC has been so supportive of this concept, this effort. And again, I think it speaks to South Africans who've done, in my opinion, my humble opinion, a lot for this community, including, especially SAJAC.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that February 29th, we're having, what's it called, Franklin?
CAN Takes Action, to talk about, we're going to have some incredible speakers, national speakers. Sarah Brown from the HAC is going to start off with an introduction, giving us an up-to-date sort of view, 30,000-foot view of what's going on in the country. You know, she's got her finger on the pulse, what's going on in the schools, what's going on in the universities. We're going to have people from IAC also at a national level speaking. There's an African American Jewish woman, Brandy Kupachinski, I think that's her last name, who's incredible. When you hear what this woman is doing for the Jewish community across the nation, I heard her speak at Laura's house a few weeks ago. She's got 2 children in Israel. And, you know, it's just amazing the amount of effort that's starting to come out, because we've got a big problem. But, you know, I'm Israel. We come together, and that's community. And I have no doubt we will prevail. We have to prevail. We've prevailed for 3,500 years of efforts to destroy us. I don't disbelieve that this is a potential existential threat to our future generations if we don't take action. So February 29th is going to be, I think, an important overview and exposure of what's the problem, what's the solution.
Is that a Zoom thing, or what is that?
It's going to be a Zoom. It's going to be a Zoom. It's a concept at the moment that Pam and I are working on. We've pretty much got all the speakers lined up. We've just got to start marketing it, advertising it, and getting it out there.
Thanks, Franklin.
Pleasure. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for making the time. I really appreciate it.
Sorry I had to do it this way. I've just come from a Shiva call, but thank you. Thanks for understanding.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. So from here on, we have the AGM, and we want to go as quickly as possible. So, you know, that's the method of really enjoy this guest speaker. Really important that Franklin told us what he did, and now we're going to have a very quick annual general meeting.